Hello, welcome to my video overview of my exposure calculator program for the Raspberry Pi. So for this program we've got a Raspberry Pi, obviously. It's connected to a breadboard which has this LCD screen on it via the ribbon cable just to keep things a bit tidier. And then we've got a few pins from the Raspberry Pi coming over here to this other little breadboard, and on here we've got a rotary encoder with a green LED in it, a yellow button and a green button, and those are just push switches basically. So the project is written in Python. We're using the GPIO 0 library and also the Adafruit character LCD screen library to just help interfacing with these components from the Raspberry Pi. So what we've got going on here, so this is basically an exposure calculator to help with photography. So what you can see here is the kind of initial state of the program, and here you can see from left to right the F number, which is your aperture. The second there, that means shutter speed. So 125 is 125th of a second. And the last number, ISO, that's the sensitivity of the film or the sensitivity of the camera sensor, if it's a digital camera. And in that number, the higher the number, the more sensitive the film or the sensor is. So yeah, at the moment, we can use this green button here, and you can see there that the asterisks beside the values on the top will change. So that indicates which value I'm currently wanting to edit whenever I touch the rotary encoder. So in this instance, you can see I've selected the shutter speed, and I can go up and down here. The program currently only does whole stops, but I could easily update it to do half or third stops as well. So yeah, you can see there I changed the shutter speed, and also I can change the other values. And at the moment I can change them independently of each other. So yeah, I can change the aperture there, and you can see that the shutter speed and the ISO don't change. So the reason for having it like this to begin with is that you can set up your exposure based on a light meter or something like that. So you can dial in the settings that the light meter has told you. And then what you might want to do is adjust your settings, but keep the overall exposure the same. So to do that, you need to link these values together. So to do that, I hold down the green button. And then once I do that, you can see that the separator characters at the bottom have changed from pipes to the equals symbol, and you also see at the top, as well as the asterisks, we've now got an angular bracket, which is currently beside the seconds. So what happens now is that if I change the value beside the asterisks using the rotary encoder, the program will automatically update the value which the angular bracket is beside to reflect the changes that I'm making and keep the exposure the same overall. So in this instance, I've got the F number selected, so that will be what will change with the rotary encoder, and then the program will update the shutter speed to match that. So let's say I'm shooting landscapes, and I want to shoot at f8 or f11, say. So I can move the rotary encoder and then change it to f8, or let's say f11. Now it's saying, based on the initial settings that you gave me, if you want to shoot at f11 in this situation, you'll need to adjust your shutter speed to 1/30th of a second, which is quite slow. And maybe I don't have a tripod with me, so I don't really want to shoot at such a slow shutter speed. So what I can do now is I can say, right, okay, keep updating the shutter speed for me, but I'm going to change the other parameter, which is the ISO. So let's say I can change this on the back of my digital camera, and I can say, let's say, okay, maybe what, 200, that's 60th. I might get away with that, but to be safe, let's go to 400. So now it's saying, okay, so at f11, ISO 400, and your shutter speed in this instance can be 125th of a second, which might be a bit safer to handhold if you don't have a tripod with you. Equally, maybe I'm shooting some street stuff and I want to blur the background a bit more. So in that situation, I might want to have a wider aperture. So let's say first I'm going to see what happens. So I'm going to go down the way, and the program's currently adjusting the ISO. So it's saying here, if I go to f5.6, so these settings were basically back to what we had before. So ISO 100. Let's say the camera doesn't go any lower than 100 ISO. So I'm going to tell the program, okay, now start updating the shutter speed. So I'm still coming down F number, f2.8, so I can shoot at 500th of a second at f2.8, but it's maybe my lens opens up wider than that. F2, I can shoot at 1,000th, and on this program I've basically said that 1,000th is the fastest that the camera can go. So obviously not the case for most digital cameras, but for a few of the film cameras I've got, that's the fastest that it'll shoot. So in this situation, it's saying at f2 you would need to shoot at 1,000th of a second at ISO 1000, and your overall exposure would be the same as it was with the other settings that we had previously. So you can see here how the program basically balances the different elements of the exposure triangle to keep them in line. So if I let in more light with the opening the aperture, then it makes the shutter speeds faster to counteract that, for example. And that's really it. So as I say, written in Python using a couple of libraries that are freely available, and I'll post the code on my GitHub, and I'll link that in the description of the video. Thank you.